The crimson sky bleeds across broken spires of corrupted stone, casting long shadows over a landscape that defies the fundamental laws of reality. On this demon world, deep within the Eye of Terror, gravity flows sideways in some places, time stutters and skips in others, and the very air tastes of copper and screams. The ruins of what was once an imperial fortress monastery lie scattered across a plain of obsidian glass that reflects images of battles that never happened, or perhaps battles yet to come. Amid this chaos-touched desolation, something stirs in the wreckage, something that doesn't belong in this realm of madness. The Dreadnought stands half-buried in the rubble, its ancient ceramite armor scarred by millennia of warfare, its imperial aquila still visible beneath layers of corruption that have tried and failed to fully claim it. The sarcophagus at its heart remains sealed, protecting the remnant of a space marine hero whose chapter fell to darkness 10,000 years ago, but whose faith never wavered. He has been dormant here for centuries, perhaps longer, time being meaningless in this place, where reality bends to the whims of the dark gods. The machine is silent, its systems shut down to preserve what little remains of its sacred power source, waiting for a rescue that will never come. But something else has found this world, something drawn not by the whispers of chaos, but by the promise of a good fight and the scent of salvage. The Orks have arrived. The green tide comes to hell. To understand what happens when Orks discover a Loyalist Dreadnought on a chaos world, we must first understand what makes Orks unlike any other faction in the galaxy. These green-skinned Xenos are not driven by the noble aspirations of the Imperium, nor by the insidious promises of the Chaos Gods. They are not coldly logical like the Necrons, nor purposefully predatory like the Tyranids. Orks exist for one simple, primal purpose: violence. Not violence in service of some greater goal, but violence for its own sake. Violence as the highest form of expression. Violence as art and religion and culture, all rolled into one brutal, joyous package. The Orks are a biological weapon created millions of years ago by the Old Ones during the War in Heaven, engineered to fight the Necrons and their Citan masters. Unlike humanity's carefully crafted space marines or the Eldar's disciplined warriors, Orks were designed to be self-sustaining, self-replicating, and utterly unstoppable. They reproduce through spores, requiring no complex breeding programs or recruitment rituals. They possess genetic knowledge encoded directly into their DNA, giving specialized Orks, called oddboys, instinctive understanding of mechanics, medicine, and other essential skills. Most importantly, they generate a collective psychic field known as the Way Egg, a gestalt energy that grows stronger as more Orks gather together. This Way Egg energy is what makes Orks truly terrifying. It's not just a psychic phenomenon. It's a reality-warping force that makes Ork technology work through sheer collective belief. Red vehicles go faster because Orks believe they do. Guns fire because Orks believe they should, even when their construction defies all logic. A pile of scrap metal becomes a functional war machine because enough Orks think it will. This psychic gestalt field operates on a level that even the Orks themselves don't fully understand. They simply know that when enough boys get together, incredible things become possible. The particular warband that has stumbled onto this demon world belongs to the Death Skulls clan, the most notorious looters in all of Orkdom. While all Orks appreciate a good bit of salvage, the Death Skulls have elevated looting to a cultural imperative. They believe that blue is a lucky color, painting themselves and their equipment in various shades of azure. More importantly, they believe that anything they can steal or salvage becomes more powerful in their hands, simply because they're lucky enough to have taken it. This superstition drives them to appropriate everything from enemy equipment to each other's vehicles, creating a culture where theft is not only accepted, but celebrated. Their war boss, a hulking brute named Urgork de Blue, has led his warband on a rampage through the Eye of Terror, for reasons that make perfect sense to Ork logic. Most Imperial scholars would assume Orks couldn't survive in the Eye of Terror, that the corrupting influence of chaos would twist them into something unrecognizable. But Orks possess a natural resistance to chaos corruption that frustrates the dark gods to no end. Their simple, direct psychology offers few footholds for temptation. They don't seek power for power's sake. They already believe they're the strongest. They don't desire pleasure beyond the joy of a good scrap. They don't plot elaborate schemes. They just charge headlong into battle. And they're too vital and energetic to succumb to despair or decay. This doesn't mean the Eye of Terror is safe for Orks, merely that the dangers they face are physical rather than spiritual. Demons can still tear them apart. Reality-warping phenomenon can still kill them, but their souls remain fundamentally uncorrupted, their purposes unchanged. They came to the Eye of Terror for the same reason Orks go anywhere, to find something worth fighting. And on this particular demon world, they've found something far more valuable than another battle. They've found the ultimate salvage, the nature of the beast. The warband's mech boy, a relatively small orc named Kragzit, is the first to understand what they've discovered. Unlike the other boys, who only see a broken metal thing half buried in rubble, Kragzit's genetically encoded knowledge recognizes the Dreadnought for what it is: a space marine war machine, one of the Imperium's most revered weapons, worth more than 100 regular vehicles in both salvage value and combat potential. Mech boys occupy a unique position in Ork society. They are odd boys, Orks born with specialized knowledge encoded in their DNA. From the moment they emerge from their spore pods, mech boys possess an intuitive understanding of machinery and engineering that would take human tech priests decades to learn. They understand stress tolerances and power flow, not through study, but through instinct, the way a human infant instinctively knows how to cry when hungry. This knowledge grows as they age, becoming more sophisticated and comprehensive, though it always maintains that distinctly Orky flavor of practical brutality over elegant efficiency. The mech boys are what make Ork technology possible. Without them, the Orks would be armed with clubs and rocks, dangerous certainly, but not the apocalyptic threat they represent to the galaxy. With them, Orks field armies of ramshackle vehicles, massive gargants that rival Imperial titans, and weapons that defy the Mechanicus's understanding of physics. Mech boys can look at a pile of scrap and see a battle wagon. They can take a captured Imperial vehicle and improve it with bigger guns, more armor, and a liberal application of red paint. They are artists of destruction, craftsmen of carnage, and they take immense pride in their work. Kragzit is considered quite good at his job, even by mech boy standards. He built war boss Urgork's personal battle wagon, a monstrous vehicle covered in armor plates scavenged from a dozen different sources and armed with enough firepower to level a building. He's also responsible for keeping the warband's Death Dreads operational, a task that gives him unique insight into the machine now lying before him. Ork Death Dreads are analogous to Imperial Dreadnoughts, but cruder and more brutal. Where a Space Marine Dreadnought is a work of ancient craftsmanship, housing a mortally wounded hero in a life support sarcophagus that allows him to continue serving the Emperor, a Death Dread is a crudely welded metal box with an Ork volunteer sealed inside. The volunteer usually regrets this decision quickly, as being permanently encased in a hot, loud, cramped metal coffin with only a small slit to see through is uncomfortable even by Ork standards. These pilots go a bit mad, a state Orks call running in, during which they'll attack anything nearby until they learn to direct their fury toward actual enemies. But Death Dreads, for all their destructive power, are ultimately just scaled up Ork technology. They're bigger kilocans, which are themselves just mobile gun platforms. An Imperial Dreadnought represents something entirely different. 10,000 years of accumulated engineering knowledge, sacred machine spirits, power sources that can run for millennia, and armor that can withstand punishment that would reduce an Ork vehicle to scrap. Kragzit circles the half-buried Dreadnought, his mechanical eye clicking and whirring as it focuses on different sections of the ancient war machine. He can see where plasma fire has scorched the armor. He can see where a chain weapon bit deep into the ceramite but failed to penetrate. He can see the Imperial Aquila, though corrupted forces have tried to deface it. And he can see the chapter heraldry still visible on one pauldron, marking this as a warrior of the Crimson Castellans, a chapter that went renegade during the Horus Heresy, but never fell to chaos, instead choosing to fight a lonely war in the Eye of Terror against both Imperial and traitor forces. More importantly, Kragzit can see that the Dreadnought is largely intact. The damage it's sustained is superficial. The sarcophagus remains sealed. The power source, while dormant, appears functional. This isn't a wreck to be stripped for parts. This is a prize to be claimed whole. This is something that could make his war boss the most powerful in the sector. This is the kind of loot that mech boys dream about. A prize beyond price word spreads through the Ork warband with the speed of wildfire. Within minutes, dozens of boys are crowding around the discovery, shouting over each other as they debate who saw it first, who has the right to claim it, and whether they should just smash it open to see what's inside. The noise attracts more Orks, and soon the entire warband has converged on the site, creating a green tide of arguing, shoving, occasionally punching Xenos. Warboss Urgork de Blue makes his entrance in typical Ork fashion, by shoving smaller Orks out of his way and bellowing for everyone to shut up. He's a massive specimen even by Ork standards, standing nearly 3 meters tall and festooned with looted Imperial equipment. His armor is a patchwork of stolen Space Marine pauldrons, Astra Militarum flak plates, and scraps of his enemies' vehicles, all painted the lucky blue of the Death Skulls. His favorite weapon, a power claw built from a dismantled Terminator's power fist, crackles with barely contained energy. He is, by Ork reckoning, perfect, big, mean, and cunning enough to lead, but direct enough to earn respect through violence when necessary. "What we got here then?" Urgork rumbles, his voice carrying the authority of someone who's crushed enough challengers to make questioning him a terminal decision. Kragzit steps forward, puffing up with the importance of being the expert. "That's a Hume Dreadnought, boss. The real proper kind, not like our Def Dreads. This one's ancient, yeah? Worth more teeth than we got in the whole warband. Can we loot it?" Urgork asks, cutting through to the only question that matters. "If we do it proper," Kragzit hedges. "See, Hume Dreadnoughts ain't like our stuff. They got something called a mashing spirit inside, makes them all fussy about who uses them. Plus there's probably still a Hume inside the sarcophagus, all dead but not quite, yeah? We gotta be careful, or the whole thing might blow up, or worse, not work at all." This explanation causes murmuring among the gathered Orks. They understand explosions. Explosions are good, but the idea of something not working is frustrating. The whole point of looting is to make the stolen thing work for them. What's the use of a trophy you can't use? A large knob named Gutsmack speaks up, his voice skeptical. "Why don't we just crack it open, see what makes it tick and build our own? Can't be that hard." Kragzit's eye twitches, a sign that he's struggling with the urge to hit Gutsmack with a wrench. "'Cause you get, Hume tech don't work like that. It's all precise and fiddly. They got tolerances and specifications and all sorts of un-Orky nonsense. We could try, yeah, but then we'd just have a pile of expensive scrap. Better to take the whole thing, make it proper Orky while keeping it working." Urgork grunts, considering. The war boss might be brutal, but he's not stupid, and he's been a Death Skull long enough to know that the best loot is the loot you can actually use. "Right, we take it whole, get some boys to dig it out, then we figure out how to make it proper blue and lucky." This decision sets off a flurry of activity. Dozens of Orks begin clawing at the rubble with their bare hands, while others bring crude excavation equipment cobbled together from whatever they could find on the demon world. It's hard, dangerous work, not least because the rubble is corrupted by chaos energy, occasionally shifting or warping in ways that crush unwary looters. The Orks don't care. Several are killed by falling debris, One disappears when he touches a piece of stone that turns out to be a minor demon in disguise, and 3 more are crushed when a support structure gives way. But for every orc who falls, 2 more take his place, driven by the excitement of claiming such a valuable prize. The complication of corruption. What the orcs don't initially realize is that the Dreadnought isn't simply buried in rubble. It's partially fused with the demon world itself, the corrupting energies having spent centuries trying to claim the ancient machine for the dark gods. The fortress monastery that once stood here was brought into the Eye of Terror during the Horus heresy, transformed into a demon world by the will of a powerful chaos sorcerer. The few Loyalist elements that remained fought desperately to resist, and this Dreadnought was part of that resistance. The Space Marine entombed within, Brother Captain Tarkis of the Crimson Castellans, has been dormant but not dead for nearly 10,000 years. His biological components are sustained by the Dreadnought's life support systems, his consciousness locked in a dreamless void, waiting for activation protocols that might never come. The Chaos Forces tried to corrupt him, to turn his sarcophagus into a hellbrute, the twisted mockery of a Dreadnought that serves chaos. They failed, not because Tarkis was particularly resistant to corruption, but because he was never conscious to be tempted. The machine spirit of the Dreadnought itself proved more resilient, its programming and sacred, rights forming a barrier that the forces of chaos couldn't fully penetrate. But centuries of exposure have left their mark. The outer armor bears symbols that try to shift and change when not directly observed. The joints sometimes move on their own, actuated by invisible forces. The power source emits a faint hum that sounds almost like chanting in a language that predates humanity. The Dreadnought exists in a state of spiritual siege, neither fully corrupted nor fully pure, locked in an eternal stalemate between the Emperor's blessing and the Dark God's hunger. As the Orks dig deeper, exposing more of the machine, they begin to notice the wrongness. Orks are not particularly sensitive to the warp, their souls burning too bright and simple for the subtle manipulations of chaos. But even they can feel when something is fundamentally off. The air around the Dreadnought feels heavier, sounds become muffled. One Ork swears he hears voices coming from inside the machine, though when others listen, they hear nothing. Kragzit, being more observant than most, notices how the corruption in the rubble seems to avoid the Dreadnought itself, flowing around it like water around a stone. He also notices that the longer they work, the more resistance they encounter, not from physical obstacles, but from a kind of ambient hostility, as if the world itself doesn't want them to succeed. Equipment breaks more frequently than it should. Structural supports fail at precisely the wrong moments. Orks stumble and fall for no apparent reason. "Boss," Kragzit says quietly, pulling Urgork aside. "This thing's protected by something. Maybe the Humi god, maybe just stubborn machine spirits. Point is, the world don't want us taking it." Urgork's response is immediate and predictable. "Then we take it anyway. Ain't no demon world gonna tell me what I can't loot." This attitude is quintessentially Ork, where other races might hesitate, might consider the supernatural implications, might weigh the risks against the rewards. Orks simply decide that they're going to do what they want, and damn the consequences. This isn't bravery in the traditional sense, nor is it foolishness. It's a fundamental inability to conceive that they might not be able to achieve something they've decided to achieve. In Ork psychology, there's no such thing as impossible, only varying degrees of difficult. The technical challenge. Once the Dreadnought is fully excavated, a process that takes 2 full days and costs the warband nearly 40 casualties, the real challenge begins. The machine is enormous, easily 4 meters tall, and weighs several tons. It's also dormant. Its systems shut down in a way that Kragzit's instinctive knowledge doesn't immediately explain. Imperial Dreadnoughts are designed to be maintained by tech priests who've spent decades learning the proper rituals and incantations. The machine spirits that inhabit these ancient warriors are notoriously temperamental, requiring specific rites to appease and careful attention to avoid offending. Orks, Needless to say, don't do careful or ritualistic. Their approach to technology is fundamentally different from the Imperium's. Where tech priests believe in following ancient procedures exactly, speaking the right prayers and applying the sacred oils in the proper manner, Orks just hit things until they work. Where the Mechanicus sees technology as something to be revered and preserved, Orks see it as something to be used and modified. This philosophical difference creates an interesting problem when an Ork tries to work on Imperial equipment. The first challenge is simply understanding what they're looking at. Kragzit can recognize most of the major components: the power plant, the weapon systems, the locomotion mechanisms, the sarcophagus. But the connections between these systems are vastly more complex than anything in Ork technology. Imperial engineering involves redundancies upon redundancies, fail-safes, and backup systems, all interconnected in ways that seem needlessly complicated to Ork sensibilities. Why have 5 different ways to route power when one big cable would do? Why include safety mechanisms that prevent the weapons from firing when they overheat, when you could just make the weapons bigger? Kragzit spends an entire day simply examining the Dreadnought, running his fingers over seams and joints, pressing his ear against the armor to listen to the faint sounds from within, trying to understand the logic of its construction. His assembled team of lesser mechs watches with varying degrees of patience, occasionally offering suggestions that range from useful to catastrophically stupid. "We should just plug in one of our power cores," suggests a young mech named Gripfang. "Wouldn't that wake it up?" "No," Kragzit says wearily. "Humi power cores run on different things, different voltages, different frequencies. You plug in one of ours, best case it don't do nothing. Worst case, it overloads the whole system and the thing explodes." "That would be a good show though," Gripfang points out, displaying the Ork capacity for finding silver linings in disasters. The power source proves to be the primary obstacle. Imperial dreadnoughts can run for millennia on their original power cores, generating energy through processes that the Mechanicus itself doesn't fully understand, maintained as much by faith as by engineering. The Dreadnought's power plant is still functional, Kragzit determines, but it's deliberately shut down, likely a last act by its pilot before falling into dormancy. Restarting it requires activating specific systems in a specific sequence, a code that Kragzit doesn't possess. This is where Ork resourcefulness comes into play. Unable to activate the Dreadnought properly, Kragzit decides to bypass the normal startup sequence entirely. He begins by carefully, by Ork standards, removing sections of armor plate to access the interior systems. Each plate is incredibly heavy, requiring multiple Orks to lift, and secured with bolts that have been fused by age and corruption. Several mechs nearly lose fingers when their tools slip, and one grot is crushed when a plate falls on him, but eventually they gain access to the Dreadnought's innards. The interior is a revelation. Where Ork technology is all exposed wires and roughly welded joints, the Dreadnought's construction is precise and deliberate. Every component is exactly where it needs to be, secured against movement, protected against damage. The wiring is organized into neat bundles, color-coded in ways the Orks don't understand. The mechanical systems are lubricated with oils that have remained viable for 10,000 years. It's beautiful, in a way that Kragzit can appreciate, even if he finds it overly complicated. "Right," Kragzit announces to his team. "Here's what we're gonna do. We can't start it proper, because we don't know the codes. But we can jumpstart it, yeah? Connect our power directly to the main systems, bypass all-day safety rubbish, and hope the machine spirit don't get too mad." This plan has approximately a dozen ways it could catastrophically fail, but the Orks proceed anyway. They begin by fabricating a massive power cable, cobbled together from spare parts and scavenged wire. The cable is crude but functional, thick as an Ork's arm and crackling with barely contained energy. One end connects to a portable generator that the mechs have been hauling around, originally looted from an Imperial Guard firebase. The other end they plan to attach directly to the Dreadnought's power distribution node. Before they make the connection, Kragzit performs what is, for an Ork, a ritual. He places one hand on the Dreadnought's armor and speaks to the machine spirit. Not in High Gothic or any language the Imperium would recognize, but in Ork. "Listen here, you git. We ain't gonna hurt you. We just want to make you proper Orky, yeah? Gonna give you some paint, some better guns, make you lucky. But first, we need you to wake up, so don't go blowing up on us, or I'll be right cross." Whether the machine spirit understands, or whether the Dreadnought systems are simply responding to physical inputs, what happens next surprises everyone. As soon as Kragzit's mechs attach the power cable, there's a surge of energy. The Dreadnought systems light up all at once, lights flickering to life across its armor. The optical sensors glow with a baleful red light, and somewhere deep within the machine, something ancient and angry begins to wake. Awakening and resistance. Inside the sarcophagus, Brother Captain Tarkis experiences consciousness returning like a wave of fire. His last memory is of battle, of fighting against impossible odds as reality itself tried to unmake him. He remembers being surrounded by demons, their very presence causing his weapons to malfunction and his armor to corrode. He remembers giving the order for his battle brothers to retreat while he provided cover fire. He remembers something massive hitting him, the impact so powerful it should have killed him outright. And then, darkness. Now he's waking, but the sensory input is all wrong. His visual feeds show a sky that shouldn't exist, stars arranged in patterns that hurt to perceive. His auditory senses pick up a language that's crude and brutal, distinctly non-human. His tactical systems scream warnings about unauthorized access and system compromises. And everywhere, he feels the touch of Xeno's hands on his sacred armor, profaning it with their very presence. The Dreadnought's external speakers activate, broadcasting a voice that has been silent for 10 millennia. It's synthesized, mechanical, but carries undertones of barely contained rage. "What have you done?" The Orks, to their credit, don't panic. Gutsmack, standing nearby, responds with characteristic directness. "We looted you, Humi. You're ours now. I am a servant of the Emperor. I do not serve Xenos." Urgork pushes his way to the front, his massive frame intimidating even compared to the Dreadnought. "You serve us now, or we take you apart for scrap. Your choice, Humi." What follows is a tense standoff. Tarkis tries to move, to bring his weapons to bear on the greenskins surrounding him. But his power levels are critically low, and half his systems are still offline. The Orks, for their part, keep their weapons ready, but don't immediately open fire. They want this machine intact, but if it proves too dangerous, they're willing to settle for salvage. Kragzit, seeing an opportunity, steps forward. "Listen, Humi, you're stuck in the Eye of Terror, yeah? Ain't no rescue coming. Your mates are all dead, your fortress is rubbish, and you're running on borrowed time. But we can fix you up, give you proper power, make you ready to fight again. All you gotta do is let us work." There's a long pause. Through his senses, Tarkis surveys the situation. He's surrounded by at least 100 Orks, with more gathering at a distance. His weapons are offline. His power supply is failing. He's been dormant for so long that he doesn't even know what year it is. Doesn't know if the Imperium still stands. Everything he was programmed to protect is gone. Everything except his duty. "I will not serve Xenos," Tarkis finally says, each word carefully measured. "But neither am I capable of self-terminating. If you can provide power, I will tolerate your presence. For now." It's not an agreement, not really, but it's not outright hostility either. The Orks take it as permission to continue, which suits them fine. Kragzit immediately begins barking orders, directing his mechs to stabilize the power connection and begin diagnostic work. The goal is to get the Dreadnought fully operational, then figure out how to make it properly Orky. Over the next several days, a strange working relationship develops. Tarkis, despite his hatred of Xenos, is forced to provide information about his systems because the alternative is watching Ork mechs randomly prod things until something breaks catastrophically. Through his external speakers, he directs them to the proper access points, warns them away from critical systems, and occasionally explains what certain components do, in terms simple enough for even Orks to understand. The Orks, in turn, approach their work with surprising care. They're not gentle, exactly, but they're trying not to break their prize. When Kragzit needs to replace a corroded power coupling, he does so with a replacement that's functional, if not elegant. When servos need lubrication, Gripfang applies a substance that's probably not the sacred oils the Mechanicus would use, but it works. Slowly, painstakingly, the Dreadnought systems come back online. Tarkis watches through his sensors as the Orks work, and against his will, he begins to understand their methodology. They're not following any blueprint or diagram. They're working entirely by instinct, guided by that strange psychic Gestalt field he can now detect with his warp-sensitive systems. When one mech makes a mistake, another corrects it without needing to be told. When they encounter a problem, they collaborate with an efficiency that belies their apparent disorder. It's not how the Mechanicus works, not how any civilized race approaches technology, but in its own brutal way, it's effective. The Orkification process. Once the Dreadnought is fully functional again, running on a combination of its original power source, now jump-started, and a backup generator the Orks have installed just in case, the real transformation begins. This is where the fundamental incompatibility between Imperial and Ork philosophies comes to the forefront. To the Imperium, a Dreadnought is sacred. It's a tomb for a fallen hero, a weapon of the Emperor's will, a living connection to the chapter's history. Every aspect of its construction and maintenance is governed by ritual and tradition. Even basic repairs require prayers and blessings. The machine spirit must be appeased, the sacred oils applied, the litanies spoken. To modify a Dreadnought, to change its weapons or alter its appearance, would be nothing short of heresy. To Orks, these concerns are meaningless. They see a functional war machine that could be better. The weapons could be bigger. The armor could be thicker. The color could be blue instead of that boring gray and red. The fact that the machine carries the weight of 10,000 years of tradition doesn't impress them. All that matters is making it more killy and more lucky. Urgorg stands before the now active Dreadnought, arms crossed, evaluating. Right, here's what needs doing. First, we paint it proper blue, make it lucky. Then we add more Dakka, because you can never have enough Dakka. Maybe some spikes on the shoulders, make it look proper mean. And we need a proper Orky name for it. Can't be calling it Dahumi Fing forever. Tarkis, listening through his external audio pickups, experiences something close to despair. 10,000 years of service, millennia of honored tradition, and he's about to be painted blue and covered in spikes by Xenos raiders. If he had lungs to sigh with, he would. Instead, he simply says, "You will find that altering my systems is more difficult than you anticipate." He's not wrong. The first attempt to paint the Dreadnought reveals an immediate problem. The paint doesn't stick to the corrupted ceramite armor. Whether it's because of the chaos taint that still clings to the surface, or because the machine spirit actively rejects the modification, every coat of blue paint the Orks apply simply slides off within minutes. They try different formulations, different application methods, even have Kragzit construct a crude spray painting device. Nothing works. This frustrates the Orks immensely. In their experience, anything can be painted if you use enough paint and apply enough force. But the Dreadnought seems to exist in its own category, resistant to their modifications in a way that suggests something more than just material properties. It's as if the machine itself is fighting back against their attempts to change it. Kragzit, examining the problem with his mechanical eye, eventually identifies the issue. The armor's got chaos gunk on it, right? And the machine spirit is all holy Humy stuff. The two are fighting each other, makes the surface all weird. We gotta clean off the chaos gunk first. This leads to an unexpected development. Orks performing what amounts to a purification ritual on corrupted armor. They don't understand the theological implications of what they're doing. They just know that scrubbing the surface hard enough with abrasive materials eventually removes the taint. They work for days, using everything from industrial solvents, looted from an Imperial factory, to simple grease and determination. One section at a time, they strip away centuries of corruption, revealing the original armor beneath. Tarkus, monitoring their progress, experiences something he hasn't felt in millennia: hope. These Xenos, with their crude methods and complete lack of understanding, are accomplishing what Chaos couldn't. They're cleaning him. The corruption that had been slowly spreading through his systems, held at bay only by his machine spirit's stubbornness, is being physically removed. It's not proper purification by ecclesiarchy standards, and the prayers being spoken are in Orc rather than High Gothic. But the effect is undeniable. When they finally finish cleaning, the Dreadnought's armor gleams in a way it hasn't since before the Horus heresy. The Imperial Aquila is fully visible again. The chapter heraldry stands out clearly. And most importantly, the taint of Chaos is gone, scraped and scrubbed away by Xenos who don't even understand the significance of what they've accomplished. Now the paint sticks. The Orcs apply their blue in thick coats, adding symbols and glyphs that mean lucky in Orc culture. They install plates of additional armor, scavenged from destroyed Orc vehicles, welded on with complete disregard for aesthetics, but impressive structural integrity. They modify the weapons, not replacing them entirely, but augmenting them with more dakka. The assault cannon is refitted to fire larger shells at a higher rate, even if this means it's more likely to jam. The power fist gets additional crushing spikes welded onto the fingers. A crude rocket launcher is bolted to the shoulder mount, its ammunition consisting of warheads that will explode even if they don't hit anything. Through all of this, Tarkus protests. That modification will reduce accuracy by 30%. The additional weight will compromise my gyroscopic stability. Those rockets violate approximately 47 safety protocols. The Orcs ignore him. They know what they're doing, or at least they believe they know, which amounts to the same thing when Orc psychic fields are involved. The final touch is the name. After much debate, argument, and 2 fistfights, the Orcs settle on calling their prize Stompy Blue. It's simple, descriptive, and sufficiently Orky. Tarkus hates it with a burning passion that would qualify as heresy if directed at anything other than Xenos. The living weapon. When the modifications are complete, the Dreadnought designated Stompy Blue is a bizarre amalgamation of Imperial craftsmanship and Orc engineering. It's still recognizably a Space Marine Dreadnought, but now painted in bright blue with yellow lightning bolt decals, covered in additional armor plates that don't quite match, and bristling with weapons that have been modified to fire louder and harder at the cost of reliability. Skulls on chains, an Orc tradition, hang from various attachment points. One pauldron now bears the crude Death Skull's clan symbol, painted over the original chapter heraldry. Inside his sarcophagus, Tarkus has had time to contemplate his situation. He's a Loyalist Space Marine, transformed into the walking weapon of a Xenos warband, operating in the Eye of Terror with no hope of rescue. Everything he was trained to oppose, everything his chapter stood against, now surrounds him. By all rights, he should seek termination, should find a way to self-destruct rather than serve Xenos. But Brother Captain Tarkus was never one to choose the easy path. He served his chapter through the darkest days of the Horus heresy. He watched his brothers fall to chaos, one by one, while he remained true. He fought when retreat was sensible, and survived when death was expected. His duty has always been to serve the Emperor by destroying his enemies, and in that regard, his situation hasn't actually changed. The Eye of Terror is full of the Emperor's enemies. That these Xenos might benefit from his actions is unfortunate, but secondary. He decides that he will tolerate this situation, not because he's surrendered or accepted his fate, but because the alternative offers nothing. If he must be a weapon, he will be a weapon. If he must fight alongside Xenos, he will ensure that his enemies suffer regardless. And perhaps somewhere in the future he cannot predict, an opportunity for redemption will present itself. The Orcs, unaware of these internal deliberations, are simply excited to have such a powerful addition to their warband. Urgork orders a test of Stompy Blue's capabilities, directing Tarkis to engage some distant targets, specifically a group of demon-possessed ruins about 2 kilometers away. "Go on, Den," Urgork commands. "Show us what you can do." Tarkis activates his locomotion systems, and for the first time in 10 millennia, he walks. The sensation is simultaneously familiar and alien. The Ork modifications have changed his balance slightly, the additional weight distribution requiring micro-adjustments to his gyroscopic systems. But his machine spirit adapts, compensating automatically, and within seconds he's moving with the same lethal grace he possessed before his long sleep. The ruins appear in his targeting display. His threat assessment systems identify the corrupted architecture, the warp signatures indicating demonic presence, the likely positions of enemies. His assault cannon spools up with a sound like grinding thunder. The Ork-modified ammunition feeds smoothly, each shell precisely placed in the chamber despite the crude modifications. When he opens fire, the results exceed even Ork expectations. The assault cannon roars, each shot impacting with devastating force. The ruins explode in showers of corrupted stone and demonic ichor. Tarkis adjusts his aim with mechanical precision, walking his fire across the target area, leaving nothing standing. When minor demons emerge from the wreckage to retaliate, he switches to his rocket launcher, the Ork-built ammunition streaking across the distance to detonate in blossoms of fire and shrapnel. In less than 30 seconds, the ruins are completely destroyed, and the demons are banished back to the warp. The Orks erupt in cheers. This is exactly what they wanted. A weapon that's loud, destructive, and spectacular. Urgork laughs, a deep booming sound, and slaps the nearest knob on the back, hard enough to stagger him. "That's proper Orky, that is. Even if it's a Humie," Kragzit, watching his modifications perform beyond expectation, feels a swell of professional pride. The jump-started power core is holding steady. The augmented weapons are functioning despite his own doubts. Even the paint job is intact, the bright blue standing out against the twisted landscape. By Ork standards, this is his masterpiece. Over the following weeks, Stompy Blue becomes an integral part of the Warband's operations. When they raid a Chaos cultist stronghold, Tarkis leads the assault, his weapons cutting through corrupted warriors with contemptuous ease. When they encounter a pack of bloodthirsters, greater demons of Khorne, Tarkis stands his ground while the Orks retreat, his power fist crushing demonic flesh while his assault cannon keeps more distant threats at bay. When reality itself warps around them, creating hazards that would kill lesser beings, Tarkis's ancient systems remain stable, his machine spirit proving more resilient than Ork technology. A strange dynamic develops. The Orks begin to rely on Stompy Blue, treating him as a particularly effective piece of equipment rather than a person. They don't understand his occasional comments about honor or duty. They ignore his protests when they paint additional decorations on his armor. But they also defend him when other warbands question why the Death Skulls keep a Humie around, and they ensure Kragzit performs regular maintenance, recognizing that this particular loot is too valuable to neglect. Tarkis, in turn, begins to understand the Orks better than he ever wanted to. He observes their social structures, noting how power flows to the biggest and strongest, how disputes are settled through violence but without lasting grudges. He recognizes their combat effectiveness, the way they coordinate despite appearing chaotic, the surprising cunning they display in their simplest plans. They're not the mindless savages Imperial propaganda depicts. They're a fully realized alien culture, just one built on fundamentally different principles than humanity. He finds himself almost respecting Urgork. The war boss is brutal and direct, but he's also strategic in his own way. He chooses targets that provide both good fights and valuable salvage. He maintains discipline among his subordinates through a combination of violence and charisma. He even shows something like care for his warband, ensuring they have enough supplies and equipment to remain effective. In a twisted way, Urgork is doing what any good leader does. keeping his people alive and focused on their objectives. Kragsit he finds easier to understand. The mech boy approaches problems logically, testing hypotheses and learning from failures. During maintenance sessions, Tarkus finds himself voluntarily providing information about his systems, explaining how certain components work, even offering suggestions for improvements. The irony of a space marine mentoring a Xenos mech boy is not lost on him, but pragmatism outweighs ideology when survival is at stake. Complications and consequences. The situation becomes more complicated when word of the Death Skull's prize reaches other Ork warbands. Stompy Blue is simply too valuable, too unique, too impressive to go unnoticed. Other war bosses begin making offers to buy or trade for the Dreadnought. When Ork refuses, some of them try to steal it. This leads to a series of inter-Ork battles where Tarkus finds himself fighting other Orks to prevent being captured by still other Orks. These battles are instructive. Tarkus discovers that Ork warbands, while following similar cultural patterns, vary wildly in tactics and organization. The Goth clan Orks who attack are all about close combat, throwing themselves at enemies with chain axes and power claws. The Bad Moons who try to negotiate before resorting to force-field wealthier, better-equipped forces. The Evil Sons who attempt a lightning raid arrive in fast vehicles, trying to grab Stompy Blue and escape before the Death Skulls can respond. None succeed, primarily because Tarkus has no interest in changing hands. Better to remain with Orks he's familiar with than risk being claimed by a warband that might be less competent. He fights with a ferocity that impresses even the Orks, holding off entire warbands while Ork's forces counterattack. His reputation grows, the blue Humie that fights like an Ork but hits harder. The attention also draws other, more dangerous interest. Chaos forces, always alert for useful tools, begin investigating this Loyalist Dreadnought operating in the Eye of Terror. A warband of word-bearers, traitor space marines dedicated to the worship of Chaos Undivided, launches an assault on the Death Skulls, specifically to claim Tarkus. They see him as a potential recruit, a loyalist who could be corrupted and transformed into a powerful champion of the Dark Gods. The battle is fierce. Word-bearers are tactical geniuses, coordinating their assault with demonic allies and cultist support. They target Ork's command structure, attempting to decapitate the leadership and create chaos. They deploy sorcerers whose powers warp reality, making weapons malfunction and armor weaken. Against such foes, the Orks should be hopelessly outmatched. But the Orks have something the traitors don't account for: Stompy Blue. Tarkus recognizes Wordbearer's heraldry immediately, and his response is visceral. These are not just enemies, they're traitors to everything he once served. The rage that fills him is cold and pure, untempered by mercy or restraint. He advances directly into the Wordbearer's line, his assault cannon tearing through corrupted ceramite, his power fist crushing those foolish enough to engage him in melee. The Wordbearer's sorcerer attempts to corrupt him, channeling the power of the warp to twist his machine's spirit, to promise him power if he'll just surrender to chaos. Tarkus's response is to fire a rocket directly at the sorcerer's position, the explosion disrupting the ritual and banishing the summoned demon. He broadcasts his reply through his external speakers, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "I am Brother Captain Tarkus of the Crimson Castellans. I have walked in the Eye of Terror for 10,000 years without falling. You will not claim me today, traitor." The word-bearers retreat, recognizing that this target is more trouble than it's worth. The Death Skulls, having successfully defended their prize, celebrate with characteristic enthusiasm. Ork, pleased by both the victory and the loot they've claimed from the word-bearers, declares Stompy Blue an official member of the warband, complete with a share of any future salvage. It's the closest thing to respect an Ork can offer to a non-Ork. Tarkus accepts with the same stoicism he's displayed throughout. He doesn't celebrate, doesn't acknowledge the honor. He simply continues his function, destroying enemies, protecting allies, surviving. Inside his sarcophagus, however, he allows himself a moment of grim satisfaction. He's still serving the Emperor, still fighting chaos, still upholding his oaths. The circumstances are bizarre. The allies are unorthodox, but the duty remains. The long game months pass in the Eye of Terror, though time is a flexible concept in this realm of madness. The Death Skulls continue their rampage, raiding demon worlds and chaos strongholds, accumulating an impressive pile of loot. Stompy Blue remains their most valuable asset, but he's no longer unique in the Warband's arsenal. They've acquired a looted Predator tank, several Rhino transports, even a damaged but functional Land Raider that Kragsit is slowly restoring to operation. The Warband is becoming wealthy by Ork standards, attracting more boys who want to join a successful operation. Urgork's ambitions grow. He begins talking about building a space hulk, one of those massive conglomerations of ships and debris that Orks use to travel between systems. With enough scrap and enough mechs, he could construct something capable of breaking out of the Eye of Terror, carrying his warband to fresh worlds to loot and conquer. It's a massive undertaking, requiring resources far beyond what they currently possess. But Orks are nothing if not optimistic. Tarkus, listening to these plans, begins to see an opportunity. If the Orks do construct a space hulk, if they do manage to escape the Eye of Terror, they'll inevitably come into conflict with the Imperium. When that happens, Tarkus will have a choice: continue serving his Xenos captors, or find a way to contact Imperial forces and arrange his own extraction. But he's also aware that such plans may be impossible. He's been operating with Orks for months now. His armor bears their symbols, their colors, their modifications. Any Imperial force that encounters him will see only a corrupted Dreadnought, a weapon of the enemy. They won't hear his protests, won't believe his explanations. They'll destroy him on sight, and perhaps they'd be right to do so. Can a weapon that served Xenos, even unwillingly, ever be considered pure again? These philosophical questions occupy him during the long periods between battles. He has no one to discuss them with. The Orks wouldn't understand, and other humans in the Eye of Terror are either chaos cultists or slaves. He's alone with his thoughts, trapped in a metal shell, serving masters he despises while fighting enemies he hates more. It's a peculiar form of purgatory, and he's not sure if he's being tested or punished. Kragsit notices the introspection during a maintenance session. "You think too much, homie," the mech boy comments while checking power, coupling connections. "It ain't good for you." "I am contemplating the nature of duty," Tarkus replies. "What's to contemplate? You're big, you're odd, you crump things good. That's all that matters. It's not that simple." "It is for us," Kragsit says, his tone surprisingly gentle for an Ork. "We don't worry about tomorrow or yesterday. We just worry about today, about the next fight, the next bit of loot. Maybe you should try that sometime." It's simple philosophy, crude even, but Tarkus finds himself considering it. The Orks live in the moment, finding joy in immediate experiences rather than dwelling on past failures or future uncertainties. There's a purity to that approach, a clarity that his own tradition of constant vigilance and endless duty lacks. Not that he'd ever adopt such a mindset. He's still a space marine, still bound by oaths that transcend circumstance, but he can understand its appeal. The final complication. The situation reaches a crisis point when the Death Skulls discover something unexpected. Another Space Marine Dreadnought. This one belonging to a Chaos Warband. It's a Hellbrute, the twisted mockery of a Dreadnought that results when Chaos corruption fully claims both machine and pilot. The Demon Engine is being used as a guardian for a Chaos Lord's fortress, and Urgork, never one to pass up valuable loot, decides to claim it. Tarkus immediately recognizes the danger. Hellbrutes are not simply corrupted technology. They're vessels of demonic essence. Their pilots driven irreversibly insane by millennia of torment and warp taint. Fighting one will be difficult. Trying to loot one will be nearly impossible. But the Orks are excited by the challenge. seeing it as an opportunity to prove themselves and gain an even more impressive trophy. The assault on the fortress is brutal. The Chaos Lord commands a well-equipped force of traitor marines and cultists, backed by demon allies and protected by corrupted defenses. The Orks attack with their usual directness, throwing waves of boys at the walls while vehicles provide covering fire. Tarkus, as usual, leads the assault, his weapons clearing the way for the less durable Orks. The Hellbrute emerges from the fortress depths like a nightmare-given form. It's larger than Tarkus, its armor twisted into blasphemous shapes, weapons grafted onto its frame through sorcery rather than engineering. Its pilot screams continuously through external speakers, a sound of such anguish and madness that it affects even the Orks. When it moves, reality warps around it, the ground cracking and bleeding where its feet fall. The two Dreadnoughts meet in the center of the battlefield, an encounter that feels almost inevitable. Loyalist and traitor, ancient enemies separated by 10,000 years, but united in their transformation into walking weapons. The Hellbrute's pilot, driven by chaos-fueled madness, recognizes Tarkus somehow, perceiving the essential purity that still exists within the machine despite its Ork modifications. "Brother!" the Hellbrute screams, the word distorted by pain and corruption. "Why do you fight? There is no Emperor. There is no Imperium. There is only chaos." "You are wrong," Tarkus responds, his voice steady. "The Emperor endures, I endure, and you will be ended." The battle is ferocious. The Hellbrute is physically stronger, its demonic enhancements granting it power beyond normal mechanical limitations. But Tarkus is faster, his systems uncorrupted, his aim true. They trade blows, power fist against corrupted claw, assault cannon against plasma weapons. The ground around them is torn apart by stray shots and misses. Orks who get too close are caught in the crossfire, vaporized or crushed. Gradually, Tarkus gains the upper hand. The Hellbrute's corruption, for all its power, makes its movements predictable. It's driven by rage and pain rather than tactics. Tarkus exploits every opening, targeting joints and weapon mounts, degrading his opponent's combat effectiveness bit by bit. When the Hellbrute attempts to call on demonic power to regenerate, Tarkus fires his entire rocket payload directly into the breach, the explosions disrupting the warp energies. The final blow comes when Tarkus manages to close to melee range, his power fist crushing through the Hellbrute's frontal armor to reach the sarcophagus beneath. There's a moment of connection, one pilot to another, one fallen warrior to another. Through the breach, Tarkus can see the thing that was once a space marine, now barely recognizable as human, kept alive by technology and dark sorcery, long past any reasonable limit. "I'm sorry, brother," Tarkus says quietly, then activates his power fist's energy field at maximum output. The Hellbrute's pilot is instantly vaporized, and the demon engine collapses, its connection to the warp severed, its malevolent existence finally ended. The Orks cheer the victory, having never doubted that their stompy blue would triumph. Urgork personally congratulates Tarkus, declaring him the bestest Humigit in the warband. Kragzit immediately begins examining the Hellbrute's remains, eager to salvage anything useful. The fortress is looted, its defenders killed or scattered, and the Death Skulls claim a significant haul of weapons and equipment. But Tarkus doesn't celebrate. The encounter with the Hellbrute has reminded him of what he's avoided becoming. That could have been his fate if the chaos corruption had succeeded, if his machine spirit had been weaker, if circumstances had been slightly different. He's been given a glimpse of the alternative, and it's horrifying beyond measure. He also realizes something else. The Orks saved him from that fate. By looting him, by cleaning off the corruption, by keeping him active and engaged, they've provided what the Imperium couldn't, a purpose that keeps him from succumbing to the slow madness that claims all Dreadnoughts eventually. It's ironic and uncomfortable, but it's also true. Multiple endings. The The story of what happens when Orks find a Loyalist Dreadnought on a Chaos world doesn't have a single conclusion. The 41st Millennium is vast, and possibilities multiply in the Eye of Terror, where causality is merely a suggestion. Multiple futures exist simultaneously, each equally valid, each offering its own resolution to Brother Captain Tarkis's strange odyssey. In one timeline, the Death Skulls successfully build their Space Hulk. Stompy Blue, now a permanent fixture of the warband, is aboard when they break through the barriers of the Eye of Terror into real space. They emerge near an Imperial world, launching their attack with characteristic enthusiasm. During the battle, Tarkis manages to broadcast a distress signal on Imperial frequencies, identifying himself and his chapter. A nearby Space Marine strike force receives the signal and, after fierce debate, launches a rescue operation. Tarkis is recovered, though not without casualties on both sides. The Orks are angry at losing their prize, but philosophical about it. That's what happens when you loot Hume things. Sometimes they get reclaimed. Tarkis returns to the Imperium, where he's subjected to intense scrutiny by the Inquisition. Some call for his destruction, claiming he's been irredeemably tainted. Others argue for his preservation, recognizing the intelligence value of a warrior who's survived 10,000 years in the Eye of Terror. Eventually, a compromise is reached. He's allowed to continue serving, but under strict supervision, and his sarcophagus is sealed with additional wards against corruption. He fights on, bearing both Imperial and Ork paint beneath his renewed chapter colors, a living reminder that survival sometimes requires strange alliances. In another timeline, the warband is attacked by a massive chaos invasion, a black crusade in miniature aimed at claiming the demon world for a particular god. The Orks fight desperately, but they're outmatched and outnumbered. In the final battle, Urgork orders the evacuation, telling Kragsit to get the most valuable loot to safety. The mech boy tries to take Stompy Blue, but Tarkis refuses. He's found his purpose here, fighting chaos alongside these unlikely allies, and he won't abandon them in their moment of need. He makes his stand in the ruins of the original fortress monastery, exactly where his story began. The Chaos forces throw everything at him: traitor marines, demons, corrupted titans. He destroys them by the 100, by the 1,000, his weapons never silent, his determination never wavering. The Orks, seeing him hold the line alone, rally. They return to fight alongside him, inspired by the Hume's refusal to give up. The battle becomes legendary among Orks, told and retold, growing in scale with each telling. Whether they win or lose doesn't matter as much as the fighting itself, which was spectacular. Stompy Blue becomes a myth, the blue Hume who fought like an Ork, and Ork mech boys across the galaxy try to replicate the idea of looting and modifying dreadnoughts, usually with catastrophic results. In a third timeline, the dreadnought's machine spirit finally succumbs to the accumulated stress of its experiences. The combination of chaos corruption, Ork modifications, and sheer age proves too much. Tarkis feels his systems failing, his consciousness beginning to fragment. He has time for one final act. He sets his power core to overload, choosing his own end rather than risking transformation into something he'd despise. The explosion destroys several square kilometers of the demon world, taking out a significant chaos installation and many of the Orks. Kragsit, watching from a safe distance, is genuinely sad to lose his best work. The other Orks are philosophical. At least Stompy Blue went out with a proper bang. They salvage what they can from the wreckage and continue on, having learned valuable lessons about the limits of even the best loot. In yet another timeline, something unexpected happens. The Dreadnought's exposure to the YGH field begins to affect him in ways no one anticipated. Ork psychic energy, that reality warping gestalt field, starts to blur the lines between Tarkis's identity and his Ork companions. He finds himself thinking in Ork patterns, valuing what they value, seeing combat through their perspective. It's not corruption in the chaos sense. It's more like cultural assimilation at a psychic level. He remains loyal to the Emperor, but his understanding of what that means becomes more flexible, more pragmatic. He realizes that fighting the Emperor's enemies doesn't require following Imperial regulations. The Orks accept him more fully than they have any other non-Ork, and he accepts them in return. He becomes a true hybrid, a space marine in capability, an Ork in spirit, and something entirely new in practice. This Stompy Blue becomes the terror of the Eye of Terror, leading Ork wags against chaos strongholds with tactical precision no Ork normally possesses, creating a legend that will persist for millennia. In the darkest timeline, the Chaos forces succeed where the Orks failed. They capture Stompy Blue through trickery, using the Orks' own enthusiasm against them by creating an irresistible target. Tarkus finds himself in the hands of a powerful Chaos sorcerer who specializes in breaking the wills of Loyalists. But the sorcerer underestimates how much the Ork modifications have affected the Dreadnought. The machine spirit, strengthened by months of wag energy, the crude faith of Ork reverence, proves far more resilient than expected. The corruption attempt fails, but the backlash damages both sorcerer and Dreadnought. Tarkus escapes during the chaos, fleeing deeper into the Eye of Terror, now truly alone, painted in Ork colors, but serving neither Imperium nor Xenos. He becomes a wanderer, a legend whispered about in the dark corners of demon worlds. The blue ghost who appears when battles rage, fighting both chaos and order with equal fervor, loyal only to his own understanding of duty. Some say he's seeking redemption, others claim he's gone insane. The truth, as with all things in the Eye of Terror, is probably stranger than either option. Broader implications, regardless of which timeline manifests. The encounter between Orks and a Loyalist Dreadnought on a Chaos world reveals several fundamental truths about the 41st millennium. It demonstrates that the galaxy's rigid factional divisions are more permeable than doctrine admits. Alliances of necessity can form between the most unlikely parties when survival demands it. The Imperium's sacred technology can function in Xenos hands, even if modified beyond recognition. And perhaps most significantly, duty and honor can persist in the strangest circumstances, maintained not through institutional support, but through individual will. The Orks, for their part, demonstrate their unique position in the galaxy's eternal conflicts. They're neither servants of chaos nor defenders of order. They simply exist, pursuing their own incomprehensible agenda of violence and looting with such single-minded enthusiasm that even the dark gods can't fully manipulate them. Their ability to appropriate and modify technology from every other faction to make it work through sheer belief and crude engineering represents a form of freedom that the Imperium's rigid technological dogma can never achieve. In a twisted way, the Orks are more adaptable than the supposedly enlightened Imperium, more willing to experiment and evolve. The Loyalist Dreadnought's experience also highlights the fundamental loneliness of that existence. Brother Captain Tarkus, entombed in his sarcophagus for 10,000 years, has outlived his chapter, his brothers, perhaps even the ideals he fought to protect. He exists in a state between life and death, sustained by technology that's as much curse as blessing. The Orks, by looting him, inadvertently provide something the Imperium never could, a reason to keep functioning that's immediate and tangible rather than distant and abstract. He fights not for some theoretical emperor on a far-off terror, but for survival in the present moment, alongside allies he can actually see and interact with, even if those allies are Xenos savages. This also raises uncomfortable questions about the nature of the Imperium's relationship with its own weapons. Dreadnoughts are revered, honored, given every ceremony and respect tradition demands. But are they truly cared for, or simply maintained as useful equipment? The endless cycle of waking for battle, then returning to sleep, potentially for centuries between activations, is a form of isolation that might drive anyone to madness. The Orks, who keep Stompy Blue active and engaged, might be providing better for his psychological needs than the Imperium ever did, even if their methods are unorthodox and their motivations purely pragmatic. From a military perspective, the scenario demonstrates both the strengths and weaknesses of dreadnoughts as weapons platforms. Their durability and firepower are undeniable, capable of operating effectively even after millennia of neglect and in environments that would destroy lesser machines. But they're also vulnerable in ways that pure mechanical systems aren't. The human pilot, even reduced to a preserved remnant, retains biases and emotions that can be exploited. The machine spirit, that quasi-religious concept that might be actual artificial intelligence or might be faith made manifest, can be influenced and manipulated. A dreadnought is never just a weapon, it's a person in mechanical form, with all the complications that entails. The Ork modifications, crude as they are, actually improve some aspects of the dreadnought's performance. The additional armor provides redundant protection. The augmented weapons, while less reliable, deliver more damage when they do fire. The simplified maintenance procedures, based on hitting things until they work, rather than following elaborate rituals, might be more practical in field conditions. This suggests that the Imperium's rigid adherence to standard patterns and procedures might be tactically suboptimal, a heretical thought that nevertheless has evidence supporting it. The Eternal War. Ultimately, the story of Orks finding a Loyalist dreadnought on a Chaos world is a microcosm of the entire 41st millennium. It's a universe where ancient warriors fight eternal battles, where loyalties are tested in impossible circumstances, where pragmatism and ideology constantly conflict. It's a setting where the lines between hero and villain blur, where enemies of enemies become temporary allies, where survival requires compromises that doctrine forbids. Brother Captain Tarkis, whether he's rescued, destroyed, transformed, or continues wandering the Eye of Terror, represents something fundamental about the setting. The individual's struggle to maintain identity and purpose in a universe that's actively hostile to both. He's a 10,000-year-old warrior trying to serve an emperor who might not even remember his chapter existed, fighting alongside Xenos who can barely pronounce his name, killing enemies who were once his brothers. It's absurd, tragic, and somehow appropriate for a universe where there is only war. The Orks, through their looting of this Loyalist dreadnought, demonstrate their unique place in the galaxy's conflicts. They're not trying to conquer the universe or spread some ideology. They're just doing what Orks do, fighting, looting, and having the best time possible while doing both. That this sometimes results in them preserving Loyalist technology, fighting Chaos forces, and inadvertently serving the Emperor's broader goals is purely incidental. They're not heroes, but they're not truly villains either. They're Orks, and that's its own category entirely. The Demon World setting adds another layer of complexity. It's a place where reality itself is negotiable, where the normal rules don't apply, where anything is possible and nothing is permanent. In such an environment, the appearance of Orks looting a Loyalist dreadnought is merely one more impossibility among many. The Dark Gods might find it amusing. The Emperor, if he still perceives such things, might see it as evidence that his servants persist even in the worst circumstances. Or perhaps it means nothing, just another random event in a random galaxy where random things happen constantly. The technical aspects of the looting process reveal fascinating details about how technology functions in the 41st millennium. The fact that Ork modifications can work on Imperial equipment, that machine spirits can be influenced by Warg energy, that the boundaries between different technological traditions are permeable rather than absolute, all suggest that the galaxy's rigid factional divisions are more cultural than practical. If Orks can make dreadnoughts work through sheer belief and crude engineering, what does that say about the Mechanicus's elaborate rituals and procedures? If Loyalist machine spirits can tolerate Xenos handlers, how sacred are they really? These are dangerous questions that threaten foundational assumptions of Imperial ideology. The human element, represented by Tarkis's consciousness preserved in the sarcophagus, reminds us that beneath all the machines and rituals and battles, there are still individuals struggling with fear, duty, honor, and survival. He's not just a weapon system or a tactical asset. He's a person who's been forced into impossible circumstances and must somehow find meaning in them. His choices, whether to cooperate with the Orks, resist them, or find some middle ground, reflect the broader choices every individual in the 41st millennium faces. How to maintain dignity and purpose when the universe seems designed to strip both away. Conclusion. So what happens when Orks find a Loyalist Dreadnought on a chaos world? They loot it, obviously. That's what Orks do. But in the process, they create something unexpected. A bridge between entirely different understandings of technology, warfare, and purpose. They demonstrate that even the most revered Imperial equipment can function in Xenos hands. They show that chaos corruption can be overcome through methods that would horrify the ecclesiarchy. They prove that alliances can form in the strangest circumstances. For the Dreadnought, the experience is simultaneously degrading and liberating. To be looted by Xenos, modified against all protocols, painted in gaudy colors and covered in crude symbols, is an insult to everything he was trained to revere. But to be active, engaged, fighting meaningful battles, rather than sleeping for centuries between brief moments of consciousness, is a gift he didn't know he needed. The Orks might be crude, brutal, and incomprehensible, but they've given him purpose in the immediate moment, which is more, than the distant Imperium could provide. For the Orks, the Dreadnought is simply excellent loot that keeps getting better. It fights well, looks impressive, and has survived encounters that would destroy lesser equipment. That it occasionally says strange things about honor and duty is just a quirk, no different from how some vehicles make funny noises or how certain weapons only fire on specific days. They don't understand the deeper implications of what they've done, don't recognize the theological crisis they've created. They just know they've got something really good, and they're going to keep using it until it breaks, then they'll loot something else. The scenario reminds us that in the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, even the war itself is more complicated than simple factional conflict. Enemies become allies. Sacred becomes profane. The dead refuse to stay dead, and the living struggle to remain human. In such a universe, an Ork warband adopting a Loyalist Dreadnought is bizarre but not impossible, strange but not unprecedented, wrong but somehow right. And in the eye of terror, on that demon world where reality bends and time means nothing, Stompy Blue continues his war. Whether alongside his Ork handlers, alone in the darkness, or returned to Imperial service, he fights on. Because that's what Dreadnoughts do. That's what Space Marines do. That's what warriors do when their cause outlives them, but their duty remains. The Emperor protects. Gork and Mork know no fear. And somewhere between these eternal truths, a blue-painted Dreadnought with too many guns and not enough sense walks the line, serving purposes he barely understands, fighting battles that will never end, and somehow, impossibly, finding meaning in the chaos. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Warhammer 40k's stranger scenarios, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Stories of Hammer for more explorations of the grim darkness of the far future. Let me know in the comments what other unusual situations you'd like to see explored. What happens when other factions encounter each other in unexpected circumstances? The galaxy is vast, and the possibilities are endless. Until next time, may the Emperor protect you, or failing that, may you at least have enough Dakar.